In Hollywood, there are countless stars celebrated for their talent, and just as many remembered for their glamorous appearance. But Dolly Parton has always been in a category of her own. She can make the whole world laugh with a single remark, then leave people reflecting on the deeper meaning behind it moments later. Many have believed they could catch Dolly Parton off guard with difficult questions or sarcastic remarks about her appearance. Yet time and again, she has turned seemingly awkward situations into her own stage, responding with wit, intelligence, and a rare sense of confidence. That is why so many people believe the boldest thing about Dolly Parton is not her bright blonde hair or her sparkling outfits, but the way she has remained true to herself for more than half a century under the spotlight of Hollywood. So what made this extraordinary woman who she is? The answer does not begin with fame, but with a childhood marked by poverty, where Dolly learned the most important lesson of all: self-respect and the value of who she truly was. If there is one thing the public always remembers first when Dolly Parton is mentioned, it is undoubtedly her unmistakable appearance. Her voluminous blonde hair, bold makeup, glittering long nails, and high heels have become her trademark for decades. To many people, the look is dazzling, even somewhat exaggerated. But to Dolly, it has never been something she felt she needed to apologize for. Interestingly, she is usually the first person to joke about her own appearance before anyone else has the chance. Dolly has never hesitated to admit that she wears wigs, loves makeup, and spends plenty of time perfecting her look. She once joked that it takes an enormous amount of effort to look as natural as she does. Remarks like these always make audiences laugh, but behind the humor lies a very clear message. She refuses to let anyone use her appearance as a weapon against her. In fact, Dolly has never denied using cosmetic enhancements. On the contrary, she has explained that wigs save time because she does not have to style her hair every day, while makeup simply helps her feel confident whenever she steps into the public eye. To her, these are practical tools for her profession, not something to be ashamed of. But what Dolly has always emphasized is that your appearance may make people look at you once, but what keeps them there is the person you truly are. She understands that audiences may initially be drawn to her striking image, but they have continued to love her for decades because of her sincerity, her sense of humor, and her talent. That is why, whenever she is asked whether she relies too heavily on her appearance, Dolly simply smiles and gracefully steers the conversation towards what really matters: music, work, and the way people treat one another. Perhaps the boldest thing about Dolly Parton is not the way she dresses, but the complete freedom with which she has chosen her own image. She has never allowed Hollywood to decide how she should look, nor has she chased beauty standards that change with every generation. Dolly created her own image, accepted both praise and laughter, and turned them all into part of a charm that no one else has ever been able to replicate. And that confidence did not appear after she became famous. It had been nurtured long before then, during a childhood when her family had almost nothing except the love they shared with one another. Behind the image of one of America's most successful female entertainers lies a childhood that could not have been more different from the luxurious life many people imagine. Dolly Parton was born and raised in the mountains of East Tennessee, in a small wooden cabin nestled among the Appalachian Mountains. Her family had 12 children, and life was so difficult that money was almost always the one thing they lacked most. Dolly has often recalled that her childhood was not filled with expensive toys or beautiful clothes like those of other children. There were days when the family had to carefully ration every meal just to make sure everyone had enough to eat. Yet remarkably, when she reflects on those years, she rarely speaks with resentment. Instead, Dolly always remembers her childhood with gratitude, because those years of hardship taught her lessons that money could never buy. One of the stories Dolly has told most often is the story of the real doll. As a little girl, she dreamed of owning a doll just like the other children. Seeing his daughter disappointed, her father did not promise to buy something the family simply could not afford. Instead, he smiled, pointed towards her younger brothers and sisters, and essentially said, "You've already got a whole house full of dolls. They cry, they laugh, They run around and they can certainly keep you busy. Many years later, Dolly still tells that story with laughter. But as she grew older, she came to understand what her father had really been trying to teach her. He was not simply comforting his daughter, he wanted her to learn how to recognize abundance in what she already had. While others saw only poverty, he taught his children to see family and joy. Perhaps it was because of those beginnings that, even after becoming a famous star, Dolly never severed her connection with where she came from. She has kept her warm, down-to-earth way of speaking, continues to talk about her family in interviews, and has always insisted that the most important values in her life did not come from Hollywood, but from the little home where her parents raised her. That humility has surprised many people. In an industry where success can sometimes make people forget their past, Dolly Parton has instead treated her past as her foundation. She believes that if you forget where you started, sooner or later, you will forget who you are. When people think of Dolly Parton, they often picture timeless songs or the image of a legendary country music singer. But those who have worked alongside her know that her greatest gift is not only her voice or her songwriting, but also her intelligence and remarkable quick wit. On film sets and live television programs, Dolly always makes everything seem effortless. She can transform an unexpected situation into a hilarious story within seconds, leaving the entire studio in laughter. Many colleagues have admitted that working with Dolly can be surprisingly dangerous because it is so easy to lose concentration after one of her witty remarks. Some have even forgotten their lines because they were laughing so hard at her completely unscripted improvisations. That ability was no accident. Dolly grew up in a large family where everyone learned to tell stories, crack jokes, and create happiness from the simplest moments. Later, when she stepped onto the stage, she merely brought her authentic self with her. That is why Dolly's humor has never felt forced or carefully manufactured. But while her humor won audiences over, it is her songs that have made them stay. Dolly Parton has often said that she never tries to write overly complicated songs. She simply writes about what she has lived, loved, and lost. Perhaps that is why her music always feels so deeply relatable. Her songs do not merely tell stories, they allow listeners to recognize themselves within them. One of the clearest examples is the song "I Will Always Love You." Many people assumed it was a love song between romantic partners, but Dolly actually wrote it as a heartfelt farewell filled with gratitude for the colleague and mentor who had guided her through the early years of her career. There was no resentment, no tragedy, only sincere appreciation for a chapter that had come to an end. It was that honesty that transformed the song into one of the most beloved recordings in music history. Her successful career also brought Dolly the first substantial income she had ever known. Like many young people who have finally achieved their dreams, she wanted to reward herself with something special. A yellow Cadillac became the first luxury item she bought after becoming famous. She later recalled with her trademark humor that, as a little girl, she had always believed that any successful country singer simply had to own a Cadillac. So, as soon as she could afford one, she turned that childhood dream into reality. Yet what is most remarkable is that, despite acquiring fame, wealth, and almost everything she had ever dreamed of, Dolly Parton never changed the way she viewed life. To her, success has never been about the car she drives or the house she lives in, but about waking up each morning still inspired to write songs, to work, and to make someone smile. Perhaps one of the qualities that fans admire most about Dolly Parton is the way she embraces growing older. In an industry that constantly celebrates youth and physical appearance, where many performers do everything they can to conceal the marks of time, Dolly has instead turned aging itself into material for some of her funniest stories. Whenever she is asked about her age, she rarely gives a serious answer. Instead, Dolly often has the entire room laughing with her quick wit. She once joked that she simply doesn't have time to grow old because there is still far too much left for her to do every day. To Dolly, as long as she can keep writing songs, performing, meeting her fans, and pursuing new ideas, counting the years no longer seems to matter very much. What makes those light-hearted remarks so meaningful is the philosophy behind them. Dolly has never denied the passage of time. She understands that she cannot stay young forever, nor does she try to convince anyone that she is the same person she was decades ago. Instead, she chooses to embrace every change with calmness and optimism. In her view, growing older is a privilege that not everyone is fortunate enough to experience, because many people never have the chance to reach that stage of life. That outlook has allowed Dolly to maintain an extraordinary sense of positivity. Rather than mourning her youth, she focuses on everything she is still able to accomplish today. She continues to record music, write songs, appear on television, and dream up new projects. For Dolly, life does not end once a person reaches a certain age. It simply takes on a different shape. That mindset also explains why she rarely lets negative comments affect her. Whether people criticize her appearance, her age, or her style, Dolly always responds with a smile. She understands that if she can laugh at herself first, it becomes very difficult for anyone else to hurt her. Perhaps that is Dolly Parton's greatest act of courage. It is not the sparkling dresses or the iconic blonde hair, but her willingness to remain true to herself at every stage of life. While many people spend their lives trying to outrun time, Dolly has chosen to make peace with it. And perhaps it was only after she stopped worrying so much about herself that she began devoting more of her life to others. That marked the beginning of a very different chapter in Dolly Parton's life. A chapter defined by compassion and charitable work that has transformed the lives of millions. If you were to ask Dolly Parton what makes her proudest in life, many people would assume the answer would be her hit songs, her awards, or the remarkable fortune she has built over more than half a century. In reality, Dolly has repeatedly said that what brings her the greatest happiness is what she is able to do for other people. Perhaps because of her impoverished childhood, Dolly has never forgotten what it feels like to grow up with very little. She understands that not every child has the opportunity to attend school with enough books, and not every family can encourage a love of reading from an early age. That belief inspired her to establish the Imagination Library in 1995. The original idea was wonderfully simple. Every month, a child would receive a free book delivered directly to their home from birth until they reached school age. Dolly believed that the right book at the right moment could change a child's entire future. What she wanted to give was not simply pages bound together, but an opportunity for children to discover the world, nurture their imagination, and open doors that their circumstances might never otherwise have allowed. Over time, that modest program grew far beyond anyone's expectations. Millions of children across the United States and many other countries have received books through the Imagination Library. For countless families, these were the very first books to enter their homes. To Dolly, every book delivered carried the same message. Every child deserves the opportunity to dream. But that is only part of the story. Over the years, Dolly has also quietly donated millions of dollars to disaster relief efforts, helping families who lost their homes to wildfires, floods, and other natural disasters. Whenever her home state of Tennessee has faced hardship, she has almost always been among the first to organize fundraising efforts and personally support affected communities. What makes this even more remarkable is that Dolly has rarely used these acts of generosity to promote herself. She does them because she believes they are simply the right thing to do, not because she wants recognition. Someone once asked what motivated her to devote so much time and money to charitable work. Dolly simply smiled and spoke about her father. He was a hard-working man who could neither read nor write. Despite his lack of formal education, he always taught his children to be kind and to help others whenever they were able. Dolly has often said that every time she completes a charitable project, she thinks of her father and hopes that, somewhere, he would be proud of his daughter. Perhaps that is why, when people look back on Dolly Parton's life, what stands out most is not the number of albums she has released or the awards she has collected. What truly sets her apart is the way she has used her fame as a means of improving the lives of others. While many stars spend their careers building their own image, Dolly has devoted a significant part of hers to creating opportunities for people who have never had a voice. That is also why, After everything she has accomplished, so many people believe Dolly Parton's greatest legacy will not be found on the music charts, but in the lives of the millions of people she has quietly touched. Hollywood has never been short of famous people. Every year brings new faces, new trends, and new icons. Yet time has proven one thing: very few people have left a mark quite like Dolly Parton. What makes her extraordinary is not merely her timeless songs or her long list of prestigious awards. It is the way she has built her life according to her own principles. She never ran from criticism of her appearance, but turned it into laughter. She never allowed age to become a burden, instead embracing it as a natural part of life. Most importantly, she never allowed fame to make her forget where she came from. Behind the blonde hair, the sparkling dresses, and the unmistakable style is a woman who has always known exactly who she is. Dolly Parton understands that appearance may be the first thing that captures public attention, but only kindness, sincerity, and talent will make people remember you for decades. Perhaps that is why, after more than half a century in the spotlight, she continues to be admired by generations of audiences. People may marvel at Dolly's voice, laugh at her sharp sense of humor, or respect the charitable work she quietly carries out. But above all else, what has made her an irreplaceable icon is that she has never tried to become anyone other than herself. That may also be the greatest lesson Dolly Parton leaves behind. True courage does not always come from shocking actions or dramatic declarations. Sometimes the greatest courage lies in living authentically, remaining faithful to your values, and using your success to make life better for others. If there is one reason Dolly Parton has remained so deeply loved after all these years, it is perhaps because she never wanted to be just another star. What she truly wanted was to become someone whose name would make people smile. Looking at everything she has left behind, it is fair to say that she achieved exactly that. If you also enjoy stories about Hollywood legends and would like to discover the lesser-known sides hidden behind their fame, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. Who knows? Who knows? The next story might completely change the way you see an icon you have admired for years.